Hey everyone, welcome to the Florida Tips for Brits podcast. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Kirsty.
Welcome back, or welcome for the first time if you're just finding us to the podcast, episode 3 now. And in today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at accommodation.
Yeah, and seeing what's right for you and your family.
Yeah, where should you be staying when you go to Orlando? Because if you started looking at booking a trip, even if you only just begun, you're probably trying to figure out what's going to be best for you, because there are a ton of options available.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
So, off the top of my head, you've got villas with pools. So these tend to be privately owned. Then you've got like condos, which are like apartments, basically. You've got hotels, of course. But you've also got what they call on-site or on-property hotels, so like Disney hotels. You've got Universal hotels, of course. And then, of course, you've got all of the other various hotels, Airbnbs, and God knows what.
Yeah, and
there's a lot.
I think a lot of people, especially on their first trip, tend to go for more of the package style holiday, don't they? I think
Yes.
I know ourselves, when I went with my family, we kind of did the whole suite thing for the first trip.
But you tend to get like a flight and
we had a fly drive back then,
car, yeah.
And we did that kind of trip for the first time, and then the second time we did the whole villa, scenario. So I think we got a bit braver on that second trip.
Yeah, I think that tends to be par for the course, doesn't it? Par for the course. People tend to get a bit more adventurous the more they go. But there are still lots of... I mean, we've stayed in numerous hotels, both on property, so at Disney, at Universal, off property. I know you said you've never stayed on International Drive, but I used to stay on International Drive a lot with my parents when I was younger. And then, of course, my mum and dad have owned a villa for like nearly 20 years. So stayed in villas a lot as well, because I stayed at their villa and other people's villas over the years. So we've had a little bit of a taster of everything. And really, we just wanted to kind of clue you in. I mean, this podcast very much for people who perhaps are unfamiliar with Florida and the layout and stuff like that, because we're going to be getting into a little bit about where things are situated. Because really, when it comes to picking your accommodation, you either need to kind of be near Disney or near Universal, unless you want to do like a split stay, where you do like a week near Disney and a week near Universal or whatever.
But there's options, isn't there?
There's loads of options. What I will say is the first thing you need to consider is, so what do you want to do when you're there? Are you going to be kind of, I just want to do Disney? Or are you going to be like, I just want to do Universal? Or are you going to be like, I want to do everything? Because Disney and Universal are not that close to each other. Quite a distance between them. And the way traffic is these days, that distance, let's say you are staying near Disney, but you want to go to Universal, you're probably looking at like a 45-minute drive to get there. So the first thing to consider is, where do your priorities lie? Because if you're just thinking, well, I don't want to go to Universal, I just want to do Disney. Although you can certainly stay at International Drive, you're going to be travelling quite a bit each day to get to Disney World.
And it's dependent if you have a car as well, isn't it? Because some people... Of
course, yeah. I mean, that's going to be a big factor in this.
Yeah, because some people don't want to drive. It's especially on that first trip, people are often a bit nervous about driving on the opposite side of the road. And it can throw up a few kind of doubts about what you should do when you're there, where you should stay. So if you want to stay on Disney property, you've got the inclusive transport, haven't you? So
if you're thinking to yourself, I don't really want to drive,
it's possible.
You can definitely do it without a car. You can use rideshare stuff like Uber or Lyft, of course, very popular these days. Get your airport transfers from somebody like, you could do an Uber, or you could get something like Sunshine Flyer or whatever if you were staying at Disney.
And you can even take Uber to Universal, couldn't you, if you went, you're staying at Disney, so...
Yeah, of course, you can do all that stuff. So you can definitely do it without a car, but I think depending on whether you're going to drive or not will have a big bearing on where you ultimately end up staying. Because if you're kind of thinking, I just want to go and I just want to do Disney and I don't want to drive and I'm going to be at the theme parks from morning until night every single day, then maybe staying on site at Disney is going to be for you, because you've got access to all that. You're going to pay a premium, of course, because you're staying at Disney versus, say, staying on a different hotel off-site. But, of course, then once you're there, once you're in the bubble, as they call it, the Disney bubble, you can, of course, use all of the complimentary transport options available to you. So you're not going to be going out of pocket every time you want to get to a theme park, or even if you want to go somewhere like Disney Springs, they do buses and boats and all sorts, depending on the resorts where you're at. Some have like the Skyliner, some have the monorail, some have the Skyliner and and buses. Some just have buses, some have boats and buses, some have Skyliners, boats and buses. It really depends. There's lots of transportation options available.
And I think it's less common to have go in a villa and not have a car. It's
Yeah, I think if you're staying in a villa, I think you're probably going to want a car as well. You're probably at that point where if you're staying in a villa, you're probably going to want a car as well. The other thing I would say to this, the third piece of this puzzle, if you like. So first of all, it's like, well, what are your priorities? Secondly, it's like, are you going to drive? And thirdly, it's how many people are in your party. Because if you're a big family like us, so we've got 5 children, so there's 7 of us when we travel. One hotel room isn't going to cut the mustard. So you're going to need a minimum of 2 hotel rooms. Or, as we've done in the past, you might go for a suite or something, which might have like multiple bedrooms off it. Again, this kind of costs a lot of money to do it this way. So then you might start leaning towards more of a villa, because villas tend to be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 bedrooms. So they can easily, comfortably accommodate like 8, 10, 12, 16 people. So they can look like really good value. But there's everything we're going to talk about today is going to be a lot of buts, because everything's got swings and roundabouts to them all. If you are wanting to go to Universal, for example, staying in a villa probably, possibly, I'm not saying if you just want to go to Universal, but if you just are just wanting to go to Universal, but you think, stay in a villa, all of the villas are quite a distance from Universal, because the way that the state of Florida is zoned, all of the zoning around the Universal area, there are no homes that are zoned for short-term let.
You know what? I didn't know that till you told me that earlier today.
Yeah. It used to be. So I guess there's a slim chance that if you can find somebody who's owned a home in that area for donkey's years and they're still renting it out, I guess you could get a villa around there. But I would say they are extremely rare, if not impossible, to get at this moment in time. So the chances are, if you're looking at villas, they're going to be in the Kissimmee area, Davenport, Champions Gate, Claremont. My mum and dad's house was in Claremont. And that is quite close to Disney, but about 40, 45 minutes away from Universal.
Which is not that far, really, is it?
It's not a deal breaker.
In the grand scheme of things.
But I just think it bears mentioning, because if
depends,
you're just...
Yeah, it depends what you're going
It
to do.
very much depends on what you want to do. If you're just thinking, well, I want to do Universal and Disney, so I don't care, pick your poison, you can stay wherever you like. But just be aware that either or, you're going to be travelling one way or the other. What we used to like to do is we would stay at my parents' house and do Disney. And then we'd book into a Universal hotel and do Universal.
Some might find that excessive, like why you've got accommodation,
right.
Why do you need to book in a hotel? But there was a reason for doing that, wasn't there?
There is a reason for doing that, and really the reason for doing that was just convenience, but also, especially if you're going at a peak time, depending on the hotel that you stay in, you get some really good benefits. So this is the other thing, of course, staying in on-site hotels come with benefits for the various theme parks. So for example, we're talking about Universal now. Universal, if you stay in a Universal hotel, will allow you into the theme parks early each morning, different theme parks. Sometimes it'll be Universal, sometimes it'll be Universal Studios, sometimes it'll be Islands of Adventure, sometimes it might be both. And they'll usually let you in, I think it's an hour early still at the moment. And that's from any Universal hotel. So if you're staying at any of the Universal hotels, everything from like Universal Surfside and Dockside, all the way up to the Portofino Bay, Hard Rock, what have you, you get the same perk. It's the early entry. But if you stay in one of the what they call a Premier Resort, which is like a Disney Deluxe resort, so Hard Rock, Portofino Bay Hotel, or the Royal Pacific, you also get Universal Unlimited Express passes included with your stay. These are worth their weight in gold at busy times of the year, aren't they?
Oh yeah, most definitely. And it's worth, and we found it was worth staying over a night. So we get these passes that we can use on the day we check in and the day we check out.
Similarly, going over to the Disney side of things now, the reason you would want to stay in a Disney hotel, kind of similar. Okay, so every Disney hotel, if you stay in there, obviously you got complimentary transport. We've talked about that a little bit, to and from the parks, but you also get early entry to the theme parks. Now, at the moment, it's only 30 minutes per day, but it's every day, and it's from every hotel. So even if you're staying in a value resort all the way up to a deluxe resort, you get that early entry for 30 minutes. Usually gets you in there. You might get like one or maybe two rides done before, you know, the daytime hordes descend upon the theme park. If you stay in a deluxe hotel resort at Disney, not only do you get that early entry, but you get what they don't call it extra magic hours anymore. That's what they used to call it. They call it extended evening opening, I think is their exact terminology. So if you stay at a deluxe resort, so something like Animal Kingdom Lodge, Wilderness Lodge, the Contemporary, Grand Floridian, Polynesian, these are all pretty pricey hotels, by the way. You're looking at probably $500 a night to stay in these things, and up. But then on certain days of the week, you're allowed into the theme park for several hours after daytime guests are booted out, and I'll tell you, there's nobody there. So again, this can be a decent value proposition if you're, say, eyeing up, because they do these what they call them now, the kind of like the limited ticketed events where you can pay for extra. I'll keep wanting to call it extra magic hours. That is not what it's called, but they do the like the after hours. They call them after hours, don't they? So an after hours ticket is like $130. They did one recently at Epcot. It was $129 to get a ticket, and that got you into Epcot for an extra. Technically, you could have gone from 7 p.m, but the actual after-hours party was 10 until 1 a.m, so another 3 hours. And you got free snacks and stuff with it. But if you're considering doing stuff like that, when you weigh it against the cost of a night at a deluxe hotel, things might start to make sense for you. So there are benefits like that to take into consideration. The benefit to staying at a villa is value and space.
Yeah, and your own pool usually, because most of them have their own pool. And I think I that is my choice. You know, I prefer to stay at villa.
Yeah, I mean, I love staying in hotels. Like I say, we do it usually every time we go, at least for a couple of nights.
Yeah, and that's nice to have that break in your stay. But I do like the kind of, you know, it's not as rigid. It's, you can do your own thing. And
if you are a larger group,
it's more comfortable.
It is more comfortable. And when you look at the value proposition that something like a villa kind of extends, you know, you could rent let's say, I'm just going to throw some figures out there for the sake of argument, a 4-bedroom villa around £1,000 a week. Okay. That's usually going to be large enough for like 8 people comfortably. So it could easily be 2 couples.
So
with 2 kids.
Oftentimes you can split the cost, can't you, as well?
Yeah.
So
suddenly that becomes £500 a week versus staying in a hotel that we were talking about before, which could easily be £500 a night.
You've got to kind of look at the catering side of things as well, because obviously you've got your self-catering facilities in your villa, you've got your cooker, you've got microwave, usually a big American fridge freezer.
Yeah, washer and dryer and all that.
Yeah, so you've got all those kind of facilities.
And the pool, the private pool as well, obviously, having a private pool. is a huge boon. Like my parents' house, private pool, it had a spa, jacuzzi type thing as well. You know, but you got everything, home from home, ironing board, everything usually.
Yeah, and I just think it's for me, it's the way I'd like to do it. And
Yeah,
you know, you've got the
but then
option
again,
there.
we hire a car usually, right? We drive,
and you've got the option there to cook your own meals as well. And you know, it is nice to eat out as well, but you have the option there, don't you?
And I think as well. I mean, don't get me wrong. To some people, the idea of self-catering on holiday is just like that's not a holiday.
Yeah.
Isn't it? One of our friends was like that. They were like, no.
And it's personal choice again. But
it comes down to personal preference.
I mean, I love eating out as well. But, you know, if you're trying to save a bit of money, you might want to do more big shots and kind of, you know.
Eat breakfast at the villa before you go out for the day and things like that. So there are definitely swings and roundabouts either way. There is another way, which is you could go for something along the lines of like a hotel on like an international drive or somewhere like that, or an apartment where obviously if you go for like a condo or an apartment, you're getting a mix of almost like a hotel, but it's also self-catering. Or especially if you want to stay on somewhere like International Drive, there's tons of really popular hotels on there. I've stayed in some of them. They tend to be lower cost than, say, staying in like a Universal hotel. But of course, you don't get the early access to any of the theme parks or transport laid on. So you've got to consider that. You could go somewhere else. There are another group of hotels which are known as Good Neighbour hotels. This is on the Disney side of things. And basically, Disney have partnered with a bunch of hotels in and around the Disney World area to offer them the same or very similar benefits to actually Disney hotels. So like, for example, probably the most famous one is the Swan and Dolphin Hotel or Resort, which is very close to Epcot and Hollywood Studios. This is not a Disney hotel. It's owned by Marriott. But if you book a stay there, you can still use the Disney transportation to and from the parks and Disney Springs. Mm-hmm. And you also get all of the Disney park privileges, including the extended evening opening hours, because it's treated as a deluxe resort. But price-wise, it's more like what Disney would call like a moderate resort. So it's like price tier is like mid-level, but the benefits are like top tier. So that's kind of another way of doing it.
Yeah, and some people might be more concerned about the safety aspect, you know, because when you're staying in your own villa, you know, you're out there kind of on, well, you're with other villas usually, but you're out there on your own.
Yeah, many of the communities are gated as well. So
and that's a good thing.
Security and stuff.
But then when you're staying on a complex where, you know, you might feel a bit more secure. So, you know, I mean, we've never had any issues, have we, staying in a villa?
No, fortunately, no.
You know, and we're lucky. Touch wood.
There's a table just off camera. Less said about that, the better. That's a very visual joke. So I'm sorry if you're just listening. Sorry if you're just listening.
At my table here.
Your table's not wood. Mine
and I thought
is
it's not wood, so
Mine
I can't touch that. But then I just realised what I did.
Yeah, it looks rude, but it wasn't.
There is an actual table.
Yeah. Anyway, so we digress. We digress.
So yeah, you might think, well, I want to stay on a complex where I just feel a bit more, you know, like there's more points of contact, you know, and you've got someone you can report to in a complex.
Yeah. So like, I mean, it's important to note though that many villas and many developments of villas, like where my parents were, they would have a clubhouse that'd be open, usually pretty long hours. They'd usually be open till 9 o'clock in the evening, something like that, where they would have staff on. Mm-hmm. But I know what you mean. I know what you're saying. If you've got an issue,
just feel more secure, don't they?
Yeah, like, so for example, I mean, this is another thing, because obviously as well as hotels, there are motels, aren't there? Which are, again, tend to be lower cost, but you get less amenities with them. And also, a lot of the time, there's no internal corridors on a motel. It tends to be opening just onto the outside world.
And a lot of these places as well, especially the more, say, higher end, you know, you're going to have security guards, aren't you, as well? Because sometimes if you drive into a resort, you've got the security on the gate, haven't you?
Yeah, so even if you go to, like, for example, if you stay at a Disney resort, like...
Animal Kingdom Lodge or...
Yeah, but I mean, that's a deluxe resort.
Yeah, Yeah, that's a deluxe.
But if you even if you go to like Pop Century or something, which is a value resort, you have to go through a gatehouse.
Yeah.
If you're driving a car on there, someone's going to stop you. He's going to want to see your driver's license and know what it is exactly that you're doing there. 2 reasons. Number one, security. And number two, they don't want people just dumping the cars there and then using the buses to avoid paying for parking anymore.
Yeah, that's...
Because that was a thing for a long time. Don't try and do that. You can't do that anymore.
I think, do they monitor the...
Yes.
Because, I mean, you could lie, couldn't you? But we're not going to recommend that.
No. But, they take a note of your reg, and I think you've got like... Because like we've done it before where we've gone to like...
Because you're definitely allowed to go and visit these places.
You can go and visit these places. You can, as long as you tell them that you... Like, if you've got a reservation at a restaurant or something like that, you need a reservation at a restaurant now to park in the car park if you're not staying there. That's changed from years ago. You used to just be able to say, oh, I'm going to the restaurant or whatever.
So if you were going to like Chef Mickey's, for example, at the Contemporary...
You have to show a reservation. You have to show a reservation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, for example, the Contemporary is a perfect example of this. There's absolutely nothing stopping you jumping on a monorail from the Contemporary and going visiting all the other resorts on that monorail loop. So Grand Floridian... Polynesian, you could go.
And there's a lot of interesting stuff in the resorts, isn't there? To visit, even if you're not staying there, it's sometimes nice to kind of have a walk around and see what they offer, because there's some. The Animal Kingdom Lodge, you've got the animals, and you can go and kind of see them. And
great.
Yeah, and there's some nice restaurants there which we've tried. So
great bars and restaurants on the monorail loop as well, like. There's Trader Sam's and stuff at Polynesian and what have you, which is a lot of fun. So if you're into that sort of thing, you can go and do that. But so there you go. When it comes to accommodation, there really is no one size fits all, I think, is what we're trying to get at with this podcast today. For us personally, our personal circumstances, we're a large family. We're comfortable with the area. We like to hire a car. A villa's a slam dunk for us. When it comes to value and things like that, it's a slam dunk. Not only that, but because we've been kind of a lot, we don't tend to go to the theme parks from first thing in the morning all the way to last thing at night. So we really get the benefit of having that private pool and that extra space, that space to kind of
chill out,
spread out. I think if you're going for the first time, especially, like, my advice would be, if you are like, no, I'm doing Disney, we're going for 2 weeks, we're going to do Disney, we're going to do it all day, every day, open till close, 100% Disney, I would actually recommend just spending the extra money and staying on site at Disney. Because why would you, unless you've got some burning desire to really go and try all the different restaurants that are out and about there off property, everything else you can get to on property. You wouldn't even need to hire a car. You could use the Disney transportation. You could still get to places like Disney Springs, which have got like just tons of restaurants and shops and stuff.
Some people like to go into some of the malls and stuff, and you can get the
in that case you'd get like a ride share like Lyft or Uber.
Yeah,
you?
So it's not like you can't do that.
It's not like you couldn't
stuff,
do it, but I think if you were just like no, and I wouldn't even if I'm being honest, as lovely as the deluxe resorts are, I think if you are just going to the theme parks hardcore all day every day, if that's your plan, I would save some money and go
it's
for
just
like
a place to rest your head at night, isn't it?
And go for like
recharge,
go for a moderate or a value resort, because with the exception of some transport options, that's the only thing. Some of the so like for example, if you stay at the Contemporary, you can walk to the Magic Kingdom. It's right there. But you've also got a monorail that runs through the hotel, so you can just jump on the monorail and go to Epcot like that. Or you can get a bus. Or, there's tons of different ways you can do it. So there are some extra amenities, but I think if you were just hardcore opening, closing theme parks down, I would probably... Disney theme parks, I would stay at Disney. Likewise, if you're thinking of just, like, I'm not interested in Disney, I just want to go to Universal all day, every day, Universal Hotel, even like, because like now that they've opened Endless Summer, Surfside and Dockside. That's where Wet and Wild used to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On the corner. Now that that's opened, the rates of the hotel rooms there are really quite good.
Yeah.
Like it can be like $90 a night.
Well, yeah, that's crazy.
Which for a Universal, considering that's a Universal hotel, that ain't bad, and you still get the early access to the theme parks, and they run buses which are free of charge straight to the theme parks, and you're on iDrive, International Drive, which means that you're pretty close to like tons of restaurants and stuff and convenience stores and stuff. So it's really gonna depend on what you in particular are planning to do on your trip. Personal preference, we do a villa, and then we like to go to the coast as well usually.
Yeah, I was going to say about that, yeah.
I've not touched on, we'll touch on going to the beaches another time, but our holiday will typically look like this. Sometime in Orlando doing Disney, a little break at the beach, usually Siesta Key, that's our favourite, maybe 4 or 5 days. Then we'll come back and we'll usually stay in a Universal hotel and do Universal Studios for a few days at the end of the holiday. That tends to be the way we do things. And that works for us. But
depends how much time you've got there as well. Like,
correct.
That we usually over there for, a few weeks, aren't we? So,
well, the thing is, because we work for ourselves, and we can do this job from anywhere in the world, and because my parents had a house, we'd go for the summer holidays. So we'd go for like 6-7 weeks.
Which was great, yeah.
It's amazing. But that's the only reason why we did it, because we could go to my mum and dad's house and stuff. But I would still, my personal preference would be to stay in a villa still and rent a car, because I like to travel around a bit. Like I say, we like to go to the coast. We like to
and anytime I have
try different restaurants and things.
In a room, at a hotel, I don't know. I like the space, because I always feel a bit like they're so small.
Because I mean,
and you feel a bit limited.
Well, to give you an idea of like size differences, like a villa, 4-bedroom villa, is typically going to be between kind of 1,500 and 2,000 square feet. A typical hotel room at Disney is around 300 square feet. Right. Some are bigger than others. It depends on which resort you're staying at. Universal, Portofino Bay has got the largest standard hotel rooms of any hotel in Orlando, and the standard hotel rooms are 450 square feet. They're the biggest in Orlando, to give you some idea. And the 2-bedroom suite we stayed in was 1,600 square feet. So that was similar to like a 4-bedroom villa. That was nice, wasn't it? I mean, that was really swanky. Good. It was an extravagance, and we did it that one time, and it was amazing.
But like you say, it
was very costly. It was like $1,600 a night.
Yeah.
So,
No, I definitely like the
unless
space.
you're Justin Bieber, then you're probably not going to stay there for 2 weeks.
Well, exactly, yeah. I just really like the space. I like being able to do what I want to do. I don't have to think about people coming in the room and things like that, like maids and changing your bed linen.
That being said, there is nobody changing your bed linen or washing your towels in a villa, is there?
Well, this is it.
Well, this is why...
But you've got the amenities there. You've got your washer dryer, and they're usually the big American washer dryers, so you've got...
Right, so to us, that appeals to us.
Yeah.
But like I say, we've got friends who were just like, no, I'm on holiday. I don't do washing. Because that's what holiday was to them. And that's it. I think we might look at things differently if we were going.
Yeah, most definitely.
If we were just like, no, this is our 2 weeks, I'm hands off the wheel here. I must admit, I do like it. When we go to the coast, I know I said I wasn't going to talk about the coast, but I'm going to talk about the coast now really briefly in closing. When we go to the coast, I do like it because I tend to just park the car up and leave it for like 3 or 4 days, so I don't have to drive. Because usually I am, because you don't drive,
I don't drive,
do you?
No.
Don't have a driver's license, so I drive. And so it's nice to have a few days off. So I get it. Like, especially if you're in a job in the UK where you do a lot of driving, you might not love the idea of doing a lot of driving when you're on holiday. So that's where a hotel's going to really, really win, isn't it? It's going to win hard. Like, if you don't have to if you can let somebody else worrying about the driving, perfect. But
Yeah, and not everyone's confident about doing it, are they? You know, even the most competent drivers in the UK might think, oh, I don't really want to try driving when I go over there, and I'm a bit nervous about it, and that's understandable if you've never done it before as well.
I think we'll leave that for a story for another day, because we'll talk about driving in another episode for sure, because I know a lot of people do feel that way, and I can remember being very nervous before driving for the first time in Florida, even though I'd been a lot. Like, so I was familiar with the roads, but only ever as a passenger.
I felt nervous as a passenger, so
that's just might be my driving.
No, it was just. I think it's so different, isn't it? The roads are completely different. Yeah, so it takes a bit of getting used to, I think.
So there you have it. Sorry, there is no conclusive. This is what you should do. You know best how you're going to be, your party, your family, or whoever. And your preferences as well. You know whether you want to go to Disney or Universal or all the theme parks or none of the theme parks or everywhere in between. Yeah, and your budget obviously makes a difference as budget does make a difference, because unlimited. If I just had unlimited means, I'd just book in at like
the penthouse.
The presidential suite at Portofino Bay. I was angling for an upgrade this one time because it was like, was it my mum and dad's wedding anniversary or something? We took them there.
Yeah, it was something like that.
And it was when we booked this other suite, and I was like, so it's there. But whatever, I can't remember how many years wedding anniversary it was. Any chance of an upgrade? And they're like, to what? I was like, oh, well, what's the next one up? And it was like, I knew full well it was like, could only be like the presidential suite basically, and I priced that up. It was very expensive.
Yeah, they're not going to put you in there.
And they were just like, no, mate. It was worth an ask, wasn't it?
Yeah. I don't think they were willing to kind of go to that upgrade.
They're very nice. Yeah, they're very nice. Yeah. I will say that.
They have been every time we've been to
the staff at Disney hotels and the staff
and
at
Universal ones,
especially at the Lowe's hotels, because Universal's got. I'm going off on a tangent here, but if you go to the top of the what they call Premier hotels, they're operated by Lowe's. Some of the other hotels are operated by Universal themselves. They're both good. But Lowe's in particular, they've always been lovely to us.
Yeah, and the staff have been so lovely, especially as well in the room where you get the food. What is it called?
Oh, club level. Yeah, we did club level. We did club level, didn't we?
And the staff are really nice, aren't they? You know, you're just kind of collecting your food, and
I mean, I guess they're being paid to be nice.
It's customer service, isn't it? But
they are very nice. So
we found them really lovely.
So it's really going to depend on your personal preferences, how big your party is, and how deep your pockets are, really, because
there's a lot of cost.
But the good news is there's something for basically everybody's budget, isn't there? You know, I mean, it's one of them. Orlando very much is one of those places. You may have heard people say it before, but you can kind of do it as low cost or as high cost as you want.
And the money can really run away, you know, because it is. There's so much to pay for.
But that's why I was. That's why I was saying before. Yeah. That's why I was saying before. If your main aim is to go to those theme parks and close them down every day, you know, if you're leaving the property, whatever it be, at 7:00 in the morning, and you're not coming home till midnight, and you're literally collapsing.
A lot of people do that, don't they? Right. Yeah, because it's that kind of thing we said before. It's your holiday of a lifetime.
I would not want to spend the money on like a deluxe hotel resort
when you're not going to enjoy it,
and then just be like passing out when I came home because they're too nice. I would go for, and this is not to say that the value ones are not nice. They're perfectly lovely.
Yeah, we've stayed at Art of Animation, haven't we?
Art of Animation is like, nice. I think it's considered a moderate or a moderate value or something like that. It's like that. It's not. I don't think it's quite a moderate, and I don't. It's not quite a value. It's kind of in the middle somewhere. It was fine.
Yeah, and I think it's great that one when you've got children, you know, because there's a lot.
We stayed in a Little Mermaid room, didn't we?
If you want a themed room.
And then we've stayed in deluxe ones as well, which are also very nice. But you do feel kind of like you're missing out a little bit, because you're like, I should really be staying at this lovely resort, but I also want to go to the theme parks. You see what I'm saying with this? I think you can end up wasting quite a bit of money. I would honestly just recommend, if you're going to Disney only, staying at Disney. If you're going to Universal only, stay on International Drive or a Universal hotel. If you're confident I think villas are excellent value for money.
Yeah, most definitely.
Basically,
and
that's
you've
what it
got a
boils
lot of
down to.
options with that. There's so many options, aren't there?
Yeah. So there you go. I hope we've not just confused you further with this, because we did get a bit rambly there, but there are so many. There are just so many options, and every time you start talking about one thing, you remember something else. No doubt we'll probably end up revisiting this, or what we might do is we might actually do a separate podcast for Universal hotels and for Disney hotels, because there's certainly we touched on it here, but there's certainly a lot of benefits there to staying at them, and also maybe driving